Good morning. My name is Kim Oddly, and I'm the Vice President of Public Policy at the Chamber of Commerce of Southwest Indiana.
Good morning, Kim.
Good morning. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Terry White, who is a candidate seeking election to the office of State Senator to the Indiana General Assembly. Please note that the same set of questions will be used for both candidates running for this office. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you.
All right, let's get started. Ready?
Sure.
Okay, please state your name, the office you're seeking, and the current position or your employment currently.
My employment, well, my name is Terry White. I'm running for State Senate in District 50, and District 50 includes basically the western side of Ward County and the eastern side of Vanderburgh, as well as part of the downtown of Evansville. I'm currently an attorney. I have a small practice here in Evansville at 123 Locust.
Thanks. Terry, if you're elected, what would be your top 3 priorities, and how would you seek to fund and implement those priorities while serving in the state legislature?
Well, actually, I've got more than 3, but let me at least tell you what I think would be my top 3. First of all, I think the most important thing is that resonates throughout this state is growth in jobs and industry as well as businesses. Secondly, I think we're all talking about, because I think it's important to restore our faith in government, that we should continue to consider how we can more efficiently operate our government. And then, of course, education, and my 4th would be healthcare. So.
Great. Do you support the Kernan Shepherd initiative? And if so, please explain your answer. Or if so, or if not, please explain your answer.
I do for the most part. Now, here's why I answer it that way. First of all, we've got, over 10,000 elected officials, government officials in Indiana. We have 1,008 townships. We've got 3,200 various government types of institutions. I'm just trying to think of how many libraries we have as well. And I think it's more important for us to reform a 150-year-old form of government. Probably because government needs to be more transparent and more open and easier and more understandable for the average citizen to participate.
What do you consider to be the top transportation and infrastructure priorities for Southwest Indiana? And what plans do you have for funding them?
Well, there's 3 things that run through my mind. Obviously, I-69, which is funded at this end of the line, but not necessarily between up by Crane. And I think that's going to be a consideration in terms of what kind of dollars we take out of our general budget to help with that, unless we have more either gas tax or sales tax related to gas. Secondly, I think that down here especially, we need to restructure the Boyd Expressway even more so than it has before, or at least are renovated to that degree, and the spur to USI.
What would you do to encourage the construction of the I-69 bridge over the Ohio River between Evansville and Henderson?
Well, we've got to reach out to Henderson for sure, because they've got to be a participant in this interstate process. I think this is sort of a put up or shut up type of situation. We either come up with the dollars on our end and say, listen, look, we're ready to continue with this great project. But by the same token, we want you to participate with us, and that's the only way we're going to be able to do it. I either put a commission together, you reach out, and you continue to work with the federal government to make sure it happens. And I want to go back, if I may, just one more time on the Kernan Shepherd deal. While I support the general concepts of making government more efficient, and we should definitely do that, this is not a one-size-fits-all. And the Kernan Shepherd, and that's why I want to explain that. It makes it very clear that what's good in Marion County is not necessarily good in Orange County or in Evansville, Indiana. So I have seen some township governments that work well. I have seen some that haven't, and so I think there is a combination of implementing Kernan Shepherd that I think would be appropriate.
Government doesn't create jobs, but it does create conditions that make additional jobs more or less likely. What conditions or economic development tools would you like to see improved upon or added in order to stimulate economic growth, create jobs, and retain current employers in Southwest Indiana?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. I've got about at least 3 different programs in mind. First of all, I've been working with Jim Heck at Work One. They've got a great program they call the STEP program. I think it's called the Skills Training for Employers, or for Employees program. And they invested $50,000 in this program, actually training employees for jobs that have already been existing in the manufacturing industry. What I understand that's resonating around, at least Southwest Indiana, from many employers I've talked to, is that they have jobs available, but they can't find anybody qualified to fill those jobs. And so pairing these willing employees, after having been appropriately vetted, up with the actual criteria that the employer needs and the training through Ivy Tech and USI that they can bring to them, I think it's just a wonderful pilot project. And I'd like to see that, as a matter of fact, spread around the state. I think we can invest in certain, well, if anything, we've got about $527 million that we found in Mitch's couch a little while back that we probably could invest in creating jobs. If there's any place for us to spend tax dollars, it's in trying to give people the opportunity to work by retraining them or training them if they've never been trained to begin with. Now secondly, there's a program I sort of like that the Chamber put together through Todd Rokita. He's doing that, of course, through his congressional district, but it's called the Red Tape Rollback Program. There's been a number of job-killing regulations that just seem to inundate employers. That's why employers aren't investing. That's why they understand that most people understand that, you know, there's billions of dollars held in accounts because the things change on them every doggone second. And so I think if I would open up my office and always be available if someone had a problem in a particular industry with regulations that aren't necessary, are unreasonable. We still need to, of course, protect consumers and the workplace as well. But if anything, I think this Red Tape Rollback Program would be an appropriate thing to do. And then finally, and while this is not necessarily creative of new jobs, while we have about, in southern Indiana, we've got less than an 8% unemployment rate, which is, of course, less than the 8.2% around the state. But veterans are at least 15.5% unemployed in terms of their general unemployment deal. And I think we ought to try to give some credits to employers who hire veterans, at least to begin with.
Substance abuse, particularly methamphetamine abuse, is a costly community problem in terms of law enforcement, crime, judicial incarceration, fire hazard, environmental concerns, child care, health care, and other expenditures. What changes in the approach to this problem would you suggest, and how would you find any new strategies? How would you fund any new strategies?
Kim, I understand that all too well. You know, in my 34 years of practicing law, being a small businessman in this community, I've seen clients. I've been a prosecutor, I've been a public defender as well, and I've seen both sides of this fence. And meth is absolutely terrible, and the abuse of meth in this particular area is the worst in the state. We all know that. The real problem is you can't get legislators up north to spend a lot of time on meth because cocaine is the drug of choice up there, and they don't seem to have a meth problem. What I think probably is the most important tool that we can use to try to get rid of this scourge, I think, is to make a Sudafed prescription. Take it back to the 1968 program where it was prescription at the time. And while I hate to keep that away from people who legitimately need it, if they really do, they can get a doctor's prescription to do it. But take away one of the main precursors that's used for methamphetamine, and that cuts that head off the snake.
Finally, what's your long-term vision for Southwest Indiana, And what specific ideas or proposals would you suggest to improve the quality of life in our region?
Well, one of the things I think is the Southwestern Indiana Chamber of Commerce. It has been a hub for everybody to come together in the region, because Southwestern Indiana ought to be a hub of industry and manufacturing, as well as service industry, simply because of where we're located. Now that the I-69 project should be completed after a period of time, we've got an absolute wonderful opportunity to continue driving potential employers in this direction. And so I don't think we really need to spend a lot of tax money yet at this point in time, because I think a lot of these things are already underway as far as projects are concerned. But we should continue to strive to regionally promote Southwestern Indiana as a crossroads of America, geographically, culturally, politically, economically.
Terry, we greatly appreciate your time today. If you have a campaign website or contact information you'd like to share, please do so now.
Good. Well, you can check me out on, well, let's see if I got one of these cards. Here we go, we'll just use this. It's White for State Senate, and you can look at Terry White for Indiana, and you can find it right there on the website. We also are on Facebook, and please be sure to take advantage of finding out where we are on the issues. Thanks.
Thanks again for your participation. For our viewers, this interview and all of the candidate interviews conducted by the Chamber of Commerce of Southwest Indiana will be accessible on the Chamber's website at www.ccswin.com. Please note that the content of this video interview and all the candidate interviews are only for authorized use by the Chamber of Commerce of Southwest Indiana. Thank you.
Thank you.